It was Mother's Day 2020 in Chaffee County, Colorado, a beautiful part of the country with mountains, trees, nature, and beautiful homes like the one owned by Barry and Suzanne Morphew. Suzanne's two teenage daughters were on a camping trip and had plans to spend time with their mom later in the day. Meanwhile, Suzanne's husband, Barry, was also away. He left early in the morning for a business trip just north of Denver in Broomfield. Those plans for a nighttime Mother's Day celebration for the Morphew family never happened. That's because Suzanne was reported missing by a neighbor after no one could contact her. The search for Suzanne was immediate but unsuccessful. Then, as the months went by, suspicion grew around Barry. He was arrested and charged with her murder, and more details were revealed. A mysterious tranquilizer dart cap was found in the laundry. Barry was seen dumping trash bags all over Broomfield, and Suzanne's affair with an old friend was revealed. But then, just before his murder trial, prosecutors dropped the charges against Barry. He was set free. Then, the skeletal remains of Suzanne were found about 50 minutes south of the Morphew's home. Barry and his attorneys insist this is proof of his innocence, and they are getting ready to go back to court, not as a defendant, but as a plaintiff, suing the investigators and prosecutors for violating his civil rights. Tonight, we take a closer look at all these shocking developments connected to the murder of Suzanne Morphew.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments. Suzanne Morphew went missing. That's how this story began. It's a missing mom on Mother's Day. Where did she go? Where was her family? Well, apparently no one was home. They were going to get together that night, but she was missing. They couldn't contact her, couldn't find her, and this search began very quickly in this case. And as it began, there were questions and there were suspicions, the normal suspicions that happen in all these cases where a loved one, either a child or a spouse, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, go missing. And you know where the circle starts, with those closest to the missing person, and it sort of expands. But what exactly happened here? Well, as the investigation continued, they still didn't find Suzanne, but they charged her husband, Barry. They charged him for murder. They locked him up, he was detained, and everything was moving forward towards a trial. It was a case that we were tracking, and we were following every development, anticipating that trial to happen. Then just a few days before the trial happens, and by the way, it wasn't going to be an easy case. It was going to be a tough case, but it seemed from what they were alleging, prosecutors had some compelling information, some compelling evidence that they believed could prove the case. But then just a few days before it started, they dropped the charges. And Barry was set free. You see him here with his daughters. His daughters support him 1,000%. They do not believe that their father had anything to do with their mother going missing. So when he was set free, the prosecutor said, well, you know, this will be a stronger case if we recover Suzanne's remains. And there were also some issues with prosecutors not handing over certain materials or revealing certain materials in the case. And the judge wasn't happy with that. So there were problems on two fronts in the case. The charges were dropped, but they could always be brought again because there was no jury. Jeopardy had not attached, not a situation of double jeopardy. He can still be charged with murder. So then last fall, her remains are recovered. They find Suzanne. And all of a sudden, everyone starts looking at, okay, what can you get from the autopsy? What can you figure out? What can you prove? Where was she found? Where was Barry? You know, so you had to put all those pieces together, and then sort of sitting in this limbo where nothing's happening. Suzanne is found, but there's no charges coming against Barry Morphew, and everyone's wondering what's going to happen, what's going to be the next shoe to drop. Well, the next shoe to drop was another court case. Not a criminal case against Barry, but a civil case by Barry. He's now suing the prosecution, the investigators, going after them for a whole lot of money for violating his civil rights. Take a look. As a proximate result of defendants, meaning all these investigators and the prosecutor, unlawful conduct, Barry Morphew was arrested, held in custody until he was able to bond out, and lived under bond conditions for over 11 months and suffered severe actual physical and emotional injuries and other damages and losses. Damages to date are estimated to be $15 million. So this is now a big lawsuit. And this is a big deal. When you sue somebody, you get deposed. Are you following this? When you sue somebody, you get deposed. Meaning if this civil suit continues, at some point the government will be able to sit down with Barry Morphew and question him under oath about this case. So it's a big gutsy move. Now, if you're factually innocent, it's the right move. If you did it, it is really dangerous. Now, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. For those of you who don't remember the details in this case, Matt Johnson, Court TV crime and justice correspondent, has them for us tonight.
Where is it? Where's the bike?
Oh, it's right there.
Where was it?
It was like just right down here in this little embankment.
8:46 p.m. Sunday, May 10th, 2020. 53-year-old Barry Morphew arrives at the scene where his wife, Suzanne Morphew's bike and helmet were found about a mile from their house by police. It was Mother's Day, but her daughters were away on a camping trip, and Barry told police that he had spent the day working on a job north of Denver in Broomfield, Colorado.
Just for confirmation, you left this morning at 5. Okay. And she told you she was going to go bike riding?
She bikes every day.
At around 5 p.m., a neighbor called 911 after checking Suzanne's house and telling Barry she couldn't contact her friend.
So the last time you probably actually saw her was this morning. That was it, right?
Yeah, I've been here I got a big job up there. I've been here all day.
Barry owned a landscaping business, and Suzanne was a stay-at-home mother who was being treated for cancer. The couple lived in Maysville, Colorado, about 2.5 hours southwest of Denver.
Is it a crash?
I mean, the bike looked, the way it was laid, it kind of looked like it, but there's not really that much damage to the bike. That's big.
Lion?
Yeah, it was just like lion.
No lion?
I didn't see anything that was...
Suzanne's disappearance quickly became a missing persons case. Her brother helped organize and lead searches for her with no success.
Unfortunately, every time the dogs hit on a scent, it seems to be close to or around one of his properties. What that might indicate is that scent was on his bobcat, and everywhere he used it, we're running into it.
Barry didn't participate in those searches, but he did post a plea for Suzanne's return on YouTube.
Oh, Suzanne, if anyone is out there that can hear this, that has you, please, we'll do whatever it takes to bring you back.
On May 5th, 2021, almost a year after she vanished, Suzanne's husband Barry was arrested and charged with her murder.
The investigation is still ongoing. Suzanne, her body has not been found, and we're still looking into that.
According to the arrest affidavit, the Morphew's marriage was falling apart. She was having an affair and believed that he was cheating too. The week before she disappeared, she texted him that she was done with him, and they had to resolve their situation civilly. They also had a history of fights over money, and he was pressuring Suzanne to loan him thousands of dollars. But in the spring of 2022, days before his scheduled trial, prosecutors dropped Barry's charges without prejudice. The judge had thrown out the potential testimony of several key witnesses because of alleged discovery violations. And without Suzanne's body, prosecutors said they could not move forward with the trial.
Barry and his daughters are relieved, but they're sad because they too want to know where Suzanne Morphew is.
In May 2023, a year after the charges were dismissed, Barry Morphew filed a $15 million suit against the investigators into his wife's disappearance and the district attorney in the case. He and his daughter sat down with Good Morning America to discuss the possibility of future charges.
Well, I was innocent the first time they arrested me, so I'm sure it's possible. But I don't have anything to worry about. I've done nothing wrong.
More than 3 years after Suzanne Morphew went missing, investigators found her remains in a shallow grave. Police discovered her while investigating an unrelated missing persons case. The site? A desert field of sagebrush near Moffett, a town 45 miles south of Suzanne and Barry's home in Maysville, not part of the original search locations. Barry Morphew's attorney said that he and his daughters were shocked by the news of her discovery and point to the fact that there is no GPS or cell phone evidence that places Barry near Moffett the weekend Suzanne disappeared.
And joining me, former homicide detective and host of The Interview Room with Chris McDonough. Chris McDonough is with us. Chris, great to see you. Thanks so much. I know you've spent a lot of time taking a look at this case. Let's start here. As you look at the way everything progressed, all the different twists and turns in this case, are you surprised that we're sitting here tonight and it's Barry Morphew who's going after prosecutors and not prosecutors going after Barry Morphew?
It's great seeing you, Vinnie. And, just to kind of kick this off, no, I'm not surprised that he's going to continue on the path that he's on. That is a very risky proposition based on what you had mentioned earlier. I think one of the things that the public needs to remember, to your point about a civil lawsuit, it's much different than a criminal lawsuit. Miranda is not necessary, and every single person that he sues gets an attorney. That means every single one of those attorneys gets another shot at Barry Morphew in terms of an interview. So, that's kind of risky in of itself. So I guess kind of in a way, I am surprised that we're sitting here, but not completely.
And what's interesting, a lot of times in these cases, the civil complaint is going the other way. It's going against the person who was at one time accused of the murder, and it's usually like a wrongful death situation. That's not here. This is the complete reverse. I want to put up a piece of the civil complaint because this I found fascinating. Barry Morphew alleging on May 19th, 2021, defendant CBI agent Duge sent a CODIS match letter via email indicating the unknown male DNA swabbed from the glove box of Suzanne's Range Rover partially matched DNA found in three out of state unsolved sexual assault investigations in Tempe, Phoenix, and Chicago. None of the defendants with knowledge of the 3 DNA matches and the unknown DNA intervened to ensure that this exculpatory DNA information was included in the arrest affidavit before it was presented to the court. But I want to get your take as homicide detective, Chris. You've got DNA from the glove box of her vehicle matching someone who's been committing sexual assaults in Tempe, Phoenix, and Chicago. What do you think of that?
Well, that's a great point, Vinnie, but so let's think of, the defense here is sought, some other dude. However, here's the problem with that. If those are your perpetrators, then it sounds like they, A, kidnapped her in that vehicle, potentially, dropped her off, and then drove the car back and parked it back in the garage and left their DNA, okay? So that in of itself, try to sort through that is kind of problematic, I would suspect, for Barry Morphew. Because if it's a partial DNA and it's not 100% match, well, that's the other piece. The other thing he has to think about is the glove that's recovered at the crime scene in where Suzanne was buried. What's in that glove? We don't know yet. What's in the clothing that was recovered at Suzanne's grave site? So he's got to take that into consideration as well.
Another part of the civil complaint, again, Barry Morphew suing the people who were prosecuting him and investigating him. The arrest warrant affidavit states that Barry chased Suzanne Morphew around their home. The arrest affidavit includes attachment 6, an estimate of the activity of Barry's phone as it appears to move from porch to porch, which he, Barry, explained by chasing and shooting a chipmunk. On June 2nd, 2020, defendants Cahill and Grusing, who are investigators in the case, learned from the FBI Special Agent Hoyland that data used to pinpoint Barry's movements was unreliable. Here's what Special Agent Hoyland wrote. For your information, one of the challenges in determining movement with the GPS readings in such a tight area is that there's a phenomenon known as static drift, wherein a stationary device can mistakenly be shown to be moving because of the number of satellites taking measurements and their corresponding locations to the stationary device. Or it could be him walking around the property, just hard to say. But I would be cautious in jumping right to the conclusion that he was bouncing around the property at these hours. So what are your thoughts there? Because a big part of their theory was he was chasing her, right? He was chasing Suzanne. He said something, oh, maybe I was chasing a chipmunk. But the FBI special agent is saying, well, this is unreliable GPS data.
Yeah, and you know more than anybody, Vinnie. I mean, you've been in the courtroom hundreds of times, I'm sure of it, with, on homicide trials. One of the things that is always important to understand is the first GPS or the first cell phone tower dumps that they get is just the very first layer of the cake. There are secondary layers of that cake from, I'll give you one of the companies that the FBI uses is a company called Gladiator Forensics. And that Gladiator Forensics company is able to pinpoint that data even further, deeper into that cake in of itself. So I wouldn't get too worried about that personally as an investigator, because I would suspect that's just the top of the layer of the cake and not necessarily the totality of making the cake.
All right, one more part of this civil complaint I need to get your thoughts on. In the arrest affidavit, the defendant stated that Barry's truck drove nearby where Suzanne's bicycle helmet was later discovered. Defendant Cahill received a recommendation from a technical engineering firm that even though inaccurate and unreliable, the GPS location data could be used to squeeze Barry during interrogations. Defendant Cahill forwarded this recommendation to one of the investigators. Joe, you would need to be careful with this, as the confidence of this particular location estimate for Barry's phone is low, and there are real considerations about its accuracy. However, in an interrogation, this could be very powerful and potentially squeezing Barry. Well, Barry never got squeezed. He never admitted to anything, but they used this information in the arrest affidavit. And that seems to be a problem, according to Barry and his attorneys.
Yeah, well, remember, Vinnie, they asked him, well, how can you explain your the ping down here? And his excuse, remember, was he was tracking a moose in that same direction. And so, to your point, I don't think they've had a second shot at him to really sit down. But again, the civil suit may give about 50 attorneys that second shot.
And I could see how they were going to use those statements against him, right? He's chasing chipmunks. He's tracking a moose, right? And you start to think, all right, what's going on here? What exactly is going on here? So as we sit here tonight, do you expect, or do you think that prosecutors need something more to give it a second go around against Barry Morphew? Because he's saying he's 100% innocent.
There's always, you never investigate the person, right? You always investigate the information. And if there's exculpatory information that's presenting itself on the second round here, then by all means, the investigators need to go down that lane. The problem that we have here, though, that I think is a high hurdle for him, is the fact that, Suzanne returned in 3 separate bags to the ME's office, and the chemical used to take her down just happened to be the exact same chemical he uses. And you tie that together with all the other circumstantial evidence, it's going to be quite the run in court.
Absolutely, but there were some problems that the prosecutor had in handing things
Absolutely.
over. Chris McDonough, thank you. We're going to see you in our second hour. You're going to be working some overtime for us tonight. You can put in for it at the end of the show. Thanks so much, Chris. When we come back, we'll bring in our think tank, get their take on this latest twist and turn in the Barry Suzanne Morphew case. Plus, coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers has been missing since February 26th. Tonight, his father joins us live for all the latest in the search for his son.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan.
In every story, in every trial, every case, there's at least two sides to it.
To dive into the latest.
Oh my God.
And breaking true crime stories.
This was a very targeted, very personal attack.
Inside.
I've never seen that in Discovery. I've been incarcerated 3 years.
And outside of the courtroom.
She's a psychopath.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central. Only on Court TV.
It was weird because it feels like the top of the bike was like up this way.
So maybe flipped.
Maybe, I don't know, man.
But the problem is, go ahead. What's the thing about 4 o'clock in the morning? Was that somebody on the phone?
5 o'clock. Oh, yeah, so we pinged the phone and it said the last activity was at 4 in the morning.
Up here?
It's off of the Ponzi Tower. So there's not any specific coordinate. Hey, could you not touch the bike with your hands, please?
Hey, guys.
That's the husband.
So that's the body camera video from the day Suzanne Morphew went missing, and they found her bike like a mile from her home, and they found the helmet somewhere else. But that was, when this case first started, it's like, okay, she's missing, she took a bike ride, something happened. But they live in the middle of nowhere. Like in the middle of nowhere. Like it's doubtful there's going to be a hit and run or some crime of opportunity that's going to take place, like someone that just happens to be driving by. Like you're in the middle of nowhere. So it was always sort of suspicious what happened here. So let's take a look, though, at the timeline, because I think it gives you a little more insight into how all of this developed in the case. May 9th, 2020, Suzanne Morphew's last known communication is a selfie, here you go, sent to her lover in Michigan. She did not respond to his reply messages. You could read into that what you want. May 10th, Barry says Suzanne was still sleeping when he left for business in Broomfield, Colorado. He is seen on surveillance at a Broomfield Holiday Inn with 2 white trash bags that morning. Barry is seen on surveillance video placing items into trash cans around Broomfield, Colorado. Why? May 10th, later that day, Suzanne is reported missing. Then Suzanne's bicycle is found near their home down a steep ravine off Chaffee County Road 225 from Highway 50. Some people are wondering, was it like an animal attack, a mountain lion or something? May 11th, search efforts begin. Hundreds of people work to find Suzanne. A reward for information grows. May 13th, Suzanne's bike helmet is found less than a mile from where her bicycle was located. Strange fact. May 17th, Barry Morphew posts a video online pleading for Suzanne's safe return. May 20th, investigators locate a spy pen during the search of the Morphew's residence. In one file, Suzanne apparently places the pen in Barry's car where it records him listening to multiple episodes of Forensic Files. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. May 5th, 2021, Barry is arrested, charged with first-degree murder and other crimes. April 19th, 2022, days before the trial set to begin, prosecutors dropped the charges without prejudice. September 22, 2023, Suzanne's remains are found in an unrelated search. And then September 27th, the remains are positively identified. Now, Barry is suing investigators and prosecutors in this case. Gutsy move. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining me, trial attorney, fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers, Ann Bremner. Also with us, trial attorney, former police lieutenant, Rick King. And finally, criminal defense attorney Joseph Krowski Jr. Okay, Ann, what do you think about this civil suit? You know, we rarely see this, right? We rarely see this. All those wrongfully accused people quietly just disappear, but not Barry Morphew.
No. Vinnie, I think it's crazy. I really do. I mean, given that they have more evidence now, and I've defended malicious prosecution cases before, he has to show his actual innocence. He has to show wanted probable cause plus malice, and that the case concluded on the merits in his favor. I mean, he's not even close on that. And like, as you say, he's going to be deposed. He's going to be deposed. That is, I mean, as a lawyer, I would never let my client get into this situation by bringing this kind of case. Sure, there's problems with the warrant. Sure, there's problems that they can say there were certain amounts of exculpatory material that were not put in the warrant or disclosed. And the prosecutor's got her own disciplinary hearing, we already know, for a lot of her own problems. But all of that aside, I think it's crazy.
Rick King, what if he's actually factually innocent? Not, we can't prove it. It's like he did not do it. How would you look at this move if that is the premise?
So let's just say we don't really know right now. 2 words: voluntary dismissal. That's what I would do first. But let's say he's actually factually innocent. I'm still concerned about him subjecting himself to depositions and testifying in open court, because, you know, we're still talking about a jury, and we're still talking about whether they actually believe you or not, or whether you can prove your innocence. I mean, it's a steep hill to climb, and I don't think that I would subject myself to that type of jeopardy, knowing that it can still go either way for you. It's just a bad idea.
Joseph Krowski Jr., in your career, you've represented many, many people accused of many bad things. And I take it, I've spoken with you, a lot of these people were 100% innocent or not found guilty, right? Were found not guilty, or charges were dropped.
Sure.
Have you ever had a client who maybe you got prosecutors to drop the charges, who then went after the prosecutors?
Look, I've had clients ask to do it. Typically, my advice is take your W and ride off into the sunset. Colorado, unlike Massachusetts, did get rid of qualified immunity for law enforcement. However, prosecutors are still protected by prosecutorial immunity. And probably like this state, and it's almost insurmountable to sue law enforcement unless you have a smoking gun, such as them being caught planting evidence, falsifying records, looking at your previous segment, even using deception in an interrogation is not illegal. It's legal in all 50 jurisdictions in the country. So I would have advised him not to do it. One thing that is telling is this lawsuit was filed before the toxicology reports came back. I wonder if right now there's some soul searching going on between Mr. Morphew and his lawyers.
And Bremner, does it tell you anything about Barry Morphew? Does it make you think that, hey, maybe this guy didn't do it, and he wants his name cleared? He wants to clear it for him and for his daughters and his family, and he wants them to find the real killer.
No, it just doesn't. I mean, and watching his interview, his YouTube plea we see right here, I think of Chris Watts. Remember him? You know, and his wife and his children, he put in those, I can't remember, silos, you know, when he killed his whole family, and he was begging for information about his family from the public. No, I think it's just, I think it's a bad move all the way around, and I think he shouldn't be that public and holding hands with the daughters. We've talked about this before, Vinnie. You know, when someone goes through this, the daughters are going to cling to the parent that survives. He's trying to use that to show that he's innocent and that they may know something that we don't know. No, they're there for him. He does this a lot. I just think all of it, bad ideas all around. Lawsuit, the holding hands, the public plea, all of it. He does not look innocent to me.
All right, we will continue to stay on top of all the developments in this story, the civil case and the criminal case. But take a look at this woman, Julie Sulpizio. She's been accused in a disturbing plot that took the life of a deputy. That story next.
to announce that earlier today, our warrants unit arrested 48-year-old Julie Sulpizio on an arrest warrant that was obtained by our detectives for her role in the murder of our beloved friend and coworker, Deputy Bradley Link, and the injury of our deputies, Stefano Gargano and Harold Howell. Julie was taken into custody today at approximately 1:45 p.m. at Advent Health Waterman Hospital in DeBerry, where she has remained since being taken there Friday night for treatment and evaluation.
Incredibly disturbing, tragic story out of Lake County, Florida. Deputy Bradley Michael Link was killed while doing a wellness check. But it wasn't just a wellness check. There was much more to this alleged plot. That woman you saw who was arrested, she's the only one who survived. But the allegations are she was working in concert with the rest of her family. Here are the details from the Lake County Sheriff's press conference.
The Lake County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call at 19:45 hours on August the 22nd, August the 2nd, requesting law enforcement to respond to 38226 Brookside Drive, Eustis, in reference to a female in the yard assaulting people that were present and trespassing on the caller's property. This turned physical as the trespasser, later identified as Julie Sulpizio, began striking the complainant's wife, his father, and others. The complainant stated she was acting religious, accusing them of being sinners, and she knows what they did. At 19:58 hours, Corporal Owens arrived on scene. Julie Sulpizio approaches Corporal Owens with her hands concealed behind her back. She was given a command not to approach and to back up by Corporal Owens. As she walked into his outstretched hand, this prompted Corporal Owens to unholster his taser, briefly pointing it at her until she took a few steps back. Two of the victims that were present with Corporal Owens and with the complainant in close proximity. During a calm verbal exchange, Julie Sulpizio states that they, meaning the group of people that were present there, were involved in pedophilia. She again claims to be Helen, and she asked one of the victims that she had battered, "Who is your God?" Julie Sulpizio stated to them that Julie is in heaven. She then went on to state, "You see, the thing is, we needed to trick Lucy, and we later learned to be a name she calls Lucifer." She then points at Corporal Owens and states, "You were one of them." She continues by stating, "See, we needed to trick the evil to come out." One of the victims explains that Julie Sulpizio wanted them to walk in front of her to her house, but they didn't trust her. The victim asked her, is Michael okay? And Julie stated, "Oh, see, he sent me down here." The victim states, "Oh, did he?" And Julie says, "Yes, my husband, my God." At 20:10 hours, Sergeant Stevens and Corporal Owens arrived at Julie Sulpizio's residence, which is walking distance from the original incident location, to conduct a well-being check on Michael and Julie Sulpizio's children. Announcements are made at the door, and contact was attempted to no avail. Sergeant Stevens observed 3 individuals inside run, and that one looked at him as they passed the shut door. Corporal Owens also finds 2 small dogs deceased in the front yard. Corporal Owens identifies an open window on the east side of the residence with the screen kicked out, raising his suspicion about the well-being of Michael and other occupants inside. Corporal Owens asked for additional units to respond while he and Sergeant Stevens hold the perimeter. They believe that this incident may have involved a burglary or a home invasion of some kind. At 21:03 hours, Master Deputy Link, along with Master Deputy Howell, Sergeant Stevens, and Master Deputy Kessinger, attempt to enter the residence while making announcements. They enter through the rear door of the residence, which is closest to the driveway and appears to be used for ingress and egress. As they opened the door, it entered into a small laundry room, which led to an intersecting hallway that led left and right. Master Deputy Link, as he approached the threshold of the hallway, advised he was going left, indicating to Master Deputy Howell he should go right. As Master Deputy Link crossed the threshold into the hallway, his body-worn camera captures several frames of what appears to be a male in black sleeve shirt or body armor, positioned with a rifle on the arm of a couch, waiting to ambush deputies. Master Deputy Link does not see this, as he is focused on moving left and the camera's pointing straight. But as he's focused on moving left, as he indicated, and he enters the hallway with his back to the suspect, believed to be Michael Sulpizio. Multiple gunshots were fired, likely rifle rounds, from the area that the suspect occupied, striking Master Deputy Link in the back, causing him to turn and fall. Master Deputy Link is struck multiple times and attempts to suppress the threat with gunfire. During this event, Master Deputy Howell is also struck in the wrist from a projectile that came from the area of where Michael Sulpizio was positioned.
And the gunman and the two daughters who are, they're the children, but they're adults. They're in their 20s, adopted children. They're dead as well. So the last remaining member of that family is just Julie Sulpizio. Rick King, I want to begin with you. You're former law enforcement in Florida. Just your thoughts about what happened here.
You know, Vinnie, for a second, as you said, I'm going to take off my criminal defense attorney hat and put back on my law enforcement hat for just a minute. That's a tragedy. And I think about, you know, I've been in situations where we're going to go into a house and we don't know what's in there, and you hit that door, you go through that door, and you know, they were doing what law enforcement officers do, and they were putting their life on the line, going into an unknown area, and they were ambushed. My heart goes out to this deputy, his family, and all the men and women that he works with every single day who are mourning his loss right now. When you think about the place where we are as a nation, and when we talk about police officers, it's just saddening to me.
Joseph Krowski Jr., let's move now to the case against Sulpizio, the last remaining member of that family. What are your thoughts about the case against her?
Oh, I think it's pretty clear that it's a case of first-degree murder. You don't actually have to be the trigger person. It looks like there's probably foreseeably going to be a mental health defense. This is unusual, though. This doesn't seem to be just an organic mental health issue. What I read is the daughters had self-inflicted blows and essentially killed themselves. This, on its face, seems to look like a family that was living like a cult. They have all the ideology. They had materials related to conspiracy theories. They were deeply and right-wing religious, and they had a stockpile of guns. One other note, I know Florida, after the Parkland shooting, had a red flag law, but there's certainly gaps in it, and they might want to revisit their gun laws. How this family was able to stockpile a cache of weapons after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting is beyond me.
And Bremner, I think Joseph Krowski is right on here, talking about the cult-like atmosphere. I see that as her potential defense here, that, you know, her lawyers are going to say she was the victim of the husband, the shooter. She referred to him as my husband, my God.
Exactly, and right before he said the word cult, I was thinking cult. That's her best defense. I mean, my husband, my God, and she acted pursuant to the teachings of the cult and her God. You know, I've defended police, as you know, for many decades anyway. I've never seen this in any of my cases in ambush. It's just, like Rick said, such a tragedy, especially these days with the way we treat police officers in this country.
So, Rick, in the state of Florida, how does this play out if, in fact, that's the road the defense goes down, that she was under the, control of her husband who was leading this family cult?
I mean, Vinnie, I don't even believe he gets that far at this point. I mean, she's definitely going to have an insanity defense, and there's going to be doctors who are involved who are going to talk about her, first of all, her ability to stand trial and her ability to understand the gravity of what she was doing when it took place. So there's two parts to it, whether she can actually get to the trial, and if she gets to trial, whether she was legally insane at the moment. So I don't know if we get there, but for the sake of that officer and his family, I hope that they find some closure.
Yeah, well, and Joseph, that's the other part of this, right? If there's someone representing this woman, they have to be able to communicate with her. My guess is not going to be an easy client to deal with.
No, she certainly doesn't appear to be competent at the moment. I mean, I'm not a forensic psychologist, but I've dealt with enough people, and a lot of people that find themselves in the crosshairs of committing serious offenses have suffered from mental illness. So, we'll probably know shortly within the first status hearing whether or not competency is a live issue. It certainly on its face looks like it is, and especially if you consider her actions and her mental state at the time of this horrific tragedy. I think, defense attorney or not, we all share our condolences to what happened to all of the victims in this case.
Absolutely. 2 other officers were injured in all of that. Big thank you tonight, Ann Bremner, Rick King, Joseph Krowski Jr. Always great to have you on. Your insight is amazing. We'll see you again soon. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, and you definitely need to know this, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, where is Sebastian Rogers? The 15-year-old boy from Tennessee has been missing since February, and tonight his father joins us live to talk about the search.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
The Dad in the Ditch murder trial. What to know before we take you inside the courtroom each day. Plus, what's trending in true crime with a deep dive into unsolved cases.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. She didn't know. Karen Reed didn't know. According to Juror B, has confirmed that he or she texted it was not guilty on second degree, split in half for the second charge. No one, check this out, no one thought she hit him on purpose or even knew that she had hit him. So more developments in this case. Big hearing coming up at the end of the week. We're going to be covering it here on this program, so get ready. Things are starting to heat up again in Massachusetts in the Karen Reed case. In the meantime, please take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child. This is Brianna Jean Lee. Brianna is missing from Kansas City, Missouri. Take a look at the picture so you recognize her face if and when you see her. 17 years old, missing since August 3rd. Here's what you need to do. If you see Brianna, pick up the phone, make the call. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Kansas City Police Department. That phone number is up on the screen. What we need to do here, folks, is we need to find Brianna and get her to a safe place tonight. I'm Vinnie Politan. Don't go anywhere. Vinnie Politan Investigates is up next. And in the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.